Right. And welcome, everyone. My name is Amos Joseph. I'm joined by my co host, Brook Potter in the UK. And this is the 10K Run podcast. How's it going, Brooke?
I've been better, Amos, to be honest. I'm having a lot of technical difficulties over on this end. As you know, I've swapped through to my third laptop at this point to try and get this fucking equipment working. And I've got it halfway. So I'm not getting any feedback on, like, my monitor for this mic is not coming through these headphones, although you are coming through these headphones. So I do apologize to the audience. If I start talking a little louder, it's because I'm trying to hear myself. But other than that, doing well. How are you doing out there in the land of 10,000 lakes?
Everything's going good here. We're getting into the for us Fahrenheit users. We're getting into the 60s and 70s for temperatures, so it's quite nice.
Nice.
No more snow. One would hope. But yeah, everything's going good here. There's already some. I guess we might as well do a little bit of a coronavirus update. There's plenty of talk of reopening the state slowly.
Good.
No talk of extending any stay-at-home order. They've already opened up some outdoor things have already been opened up. So like golf courses, shooting ranges, those have already been opened up. And then there's already talk of opening up some more, what is considered non-essential
Yes.
services and whatnot.
This is in Minnesota. Y'all have all of that in place already?
Yes.
Cool. Y'all are definitely ahead of us because I don't think we start opening back until the 11th of May. And it's stuff like what you're saying, things you could space out pretty easily, other things like that.
Right. Yeah, it's there's a lot of talk about how we're supposed to move forward with all this quarantine, because some people are still thinking, where's the infection rate going? Are we still infecting quite a few? Like, if we open, is there going to be a resurgence of infections and then they're going to just close down again? Then, of course, there's all the talk of the new stimulus plan. They want to put out the new round of stimulus payments.
More money.
Exactly. There was the extension of the small business loans that went out. You probably heard about that.
Oh yeah. It dried up in like 2 weeks or something ridiculous.
Yeah, it dried up, and then they sent back out more payments that passed. So, what was it? Because I heard people describing the official, I guess, sort of chronology of the stimulus or the coronavirus relief. There was phase 1, phase 2, then phase 3. Phase 3 was the actual checks that everyone got. And then phase 3.5 is what just got passed. So the next one is going to be phase 4, they're saying. Phase 4 will be including sort of another stimulus package focused upon another round of checks to Americans. There's a lot of talking about another $1,200. There's a coalition that's talking about a $2,000 monthly payment for upwards of 6 to 12 months or something like that, basically until the end of the national emergency.
Right.
Because while the states are slowly going to open back up, there's still going to be a continuation of the national emergency.
Yeah, of course.
And so there was a lot of videos getting really popular because you got a lot of channels that are basically trying to catch on to the views and all of the popularity of these topics. So I'm seeing a lot of videos pop up of guys that are talking about the details about every sort of proposal, all the plans, how it'll all work, and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, Alice here in the comments. Yeah, the money printers go brr. That's it. That's exactly what's going on. It's kind of frightening. I mean, I'm very concerned for the U.S. at this point and the issue of hyperinflation because all of this money is just being printed. And
Right.
yeah, we're definitely going to see. I mean, you've heard about the backlash from places like Harvard and what was the other one? Shake Shack. I mean, basically the small business loans that you guys were giving out, anybody could have gotten it, including pretty big businesses. And Harvard and I think Shake Shack both got like $9 million or something. And everybody, of course, there is upset because this is intended for small businesses that are suffering. And I think Shake Shack gave it back. I think Harvard gave it back because the backlash was going to be enormous. I don't know if you heard about all of that.
Yeah, it's I heard about the Shake Shack thing. I never kept up too much on like what exactly happened. I think some people were making some jokes about it because I kept hearing about it, but yeah, Shake Shack gave it back, and that was about it, I think.
Yeah. I mean, Harvard has a $40 billion. That's billion with a B. $40 billion endowment, which is basically money that has been given to them, and they invested like a hedge fund. So yeah, it's crony capitalism on the other side of the aisle. This is, from the education and the unions and all this other kind of nonsense. But that's not who it's for. It's really supposed to go to the small businesses, and I'm glad that they gave it back. I don't know who else is going to give it back because there are people out there really suffering. So I hope it gets to the right people.
Yeah, and I've also heard some interesting things about the there was something I heard. So there's a lot. Obviously, no one's going to give up a good crisis to politicize. So there's a lot of these news stories out there that are all kind of like trying to highlight, we're going to highlight this one small business that didn't get the loan, and they just so happen to be, to fit their narrative, they're a minority, or they're immigrants or something like that. And they kind of throw that out there. And then a lot of these people who actually dig into these stories, I found out that it was like, okay, some of these, like, there's a lot of problems with these stories. Like, I think there was something, some guy, a guy from Bangladesh, I think, came to the States and opened up a restaurant, and he didn't get the loan. And people kind of tried to politicize that and go, look, this obviously, this relief stuff is all racist or bigoted or whatever. And then they dug deep into this guy, and they're like, oh, he's been here for years opening this restaurant, doesn't speak English, didn't start the application process until 2 weeks into the window.
Right. Way
behind. I mean, granted, a lot of other companies took it for granted and kind of dried up the funds before it got to the people who, a lot of people think you really needed it. But at the same time, it was kind of like, the media is not going to give up a good piece of narrative to shove down our throats.
No, definitely not. I mean, technically, I'm an immigrant and I'm not getting any assistance from the government. I don't know when the BBC is going to show up and interview me about these issues, but.
Well, you're white. You don't count.
Yeah, but I'm Caribbean. I'm from the Caribbean, man. They don't know I'm white until they show up.
You gotta really dial up the black. You call them.
How you mean, man? You're trying to discriminate against me, or? I could do it, bro. I could do it if I have to. I mean, did I have just a quick aside. Did I tell you about the time an American college fair was taking place in Trinidad? And I was talking to some lady about doing a course at a university. I'll leave them nameless. And they're like, yeah, we got this scholarship for, people in the Caribbean and this, that, and the other, come down and, we'll have a discussion and whatever. So I go down to the fair. I think it was being hosted at the time at the Hilton Convention Center, a really nice place in Trinidad. And so I walk up and I go to the school and I was like, oh yeah, I'm so-and-so. We talked on the phone and stuff like that. And I asked her, what is it about the scholarship? This is probably some diversity, whatever, right? And she literally said to me, don't even bother. Don't even bother to apply. No offense, but you're not who they're looking for.
Oh man,
Yeah. It ain't easy, man. It ain't easy, bro.
it ain't easy being kind of white.
Kind of white.
That's the white that you are. You're just kind of white.
Yeah. It's like 70 something percent, The
But
rest
see,
is all mixed up.
you're more kind of white than I'm kind of white.
Yeah. Because you're probably 50-50 or like maybe 49-51, something very close to that. So
Yeah, depending upon what's on my Asian side that got mixed in there. You never know. Some Europeans snuck in there.
probably.
Um, but yeah, no, that there. I was talking to someone the other day about all this coronavirus and such, um, and it sounds so bad but like for me, at least for me personally,
Yeah.
I kind of like how things are going.
Let's see. Free money from the government, great money on your job, no traffic, people aren't harassing you, and you're doing very well on the social media dating and stuff like that. So, bro, you're living your best fucking life.
Yeah, I don't want things to go back to normal just yet.
Good on you, man. Good on you. Yeah, the pandemic has been great for some people.
Yeah, and people are like, "What do you mean?" Like, and some people don't like it when I kind of talk about this, like how I'm just saying, I'm not too bothered by things, and they're like, you're talking about people are poor and people are in hospitals, and I'm like, I get that, but I think I'm in a place where I'm starting to kind of just this is a good time that I can really um, kind of figure out, kind of get my priorities more in order.
Sure.
I'm a lot more, I guess, thinking of my, what was it? What Rollo calls mental point of origin, putting myself first, thinking about
Good.
things. So when I'm thinking about things, I'm talking to people. It's just like, yeah, all that stuff's going on. Like, it's so easy when you like. I like to stay in. You and I obviously we try to stay informed. We're checking the news and all this stuff. That's what we're doing the show too. Is we kind of share about our takes on things.
Yes.
But it's kind of changed to like more from interest and sort of enjoyment of like talking about current events. It's turned to that from before, where a lot of people are kind of like, like it's the reason some people believe they become pundits or like kind of pushing a narrative is because they're like, oh, I really care and I really want to get my view out there, and like, people are literally whatever dying, starving, whatever going on out there. And it's like, for me, it's like, oh, okay, the world's going on out there, it's good to talk about. I'm not, but at the same time, unless there's something extremely dire that's going to affect me directly in some major way, I'm just kind of like, hey,
Exactly.
I'm not going to get too concerned about things.
I agree. I mean, for some people, this is the first crisis that they've ever had to confront. On like a national level, especially in the US. Nothing ever fucking happens in the United States, right? You guys have been very well insulated.
Nothing happened. We never had planes crash into buildings or anything like that.
I mean, in terms of a national emergency, yes, you've had Pearl Harbor and 9/11, yes, and God rest their soul. But in terms of a national emergency, like your country's never been invaded. You haven't had economic collapse and starvation and hyperinflation like most other, even European countries.
Yeah, because even the worst of it, we haven't had any real inflationary issues.
Not yet. So now, if the pandemic is the first national crisis that I could think of, apart from your civil war, that affected the entire country.
Now, here's a question for you. This is a little bit going off into the economic topic here, but
sure.
Someone was saying, so they're talking about like the problem of course, of the U.S. printing money and all this, and trying to, whether it's to pay off debts, pay the people in some way, all this. And someone said, so what's interesting about the U.S. is they use this phrase, we export our inflation.
You did. You haven't done it since the 1980s.
And I was like,
So
what is that? And then they kind of said, oh, instead of struggling with the inflation here, we kind of export it out of our borders so that we don't take as big of a hit as maybe some other countries that just print so much money that they blow their inflation through the roof.
no, that's not what exporting your inflation is a technique that was used back in the 1980s. The 1980s, you were probably very young. I was very young.
The 80s, I wasn't even born.
You were right. You were just a twinkle in your father's eye. But I remember the 80s. The 80s fucking rocked. But it was the time of excess. It was, excessive money. Wall Street was doing really well. There was extravagance, like the first, ultra rich and all these other kinds of things. And the economic numbers were pretty much indicating that it couldn't last forever. So what the Reagan administration did to quote unquote export their inflation is they started selling a lot of assets to the Japanese. And if you watch movies and stuff like that back then, it was like they thought it was the Japanese were going to take over. They were buying up, like Sony bought Columbia Pictures. I can't even name all of the businesses that came in and started to buy up American assets. And once the Japanese came in and bought up all the American assets, they were like the last man standing, and the economy went through recession. It went through a crash.
Right.
That destroyed the Japanese economy, right? The Japanese crisis in the 1990s was caused because that's how you all exported your inflation. You sold all of your very expensive companies and other things and buildings. I think like the Chrysler building, like all of these things were sold to the Japanese investors. Nobody was willing to buy it for any further than that. The markets collapsed and the Americans swept in and bought them cheap, bought back everything that they sold, and it completely destroyed the Japanese economy. That's how you export your inflation, is by getting some of the fool to buy your very expensive stuff. And the problem is you guys don't make anything anymore. That's your problem. Yeah. That's the issue. So not as easy to do as you might hope. So
yeah, I heard that and I was like, what the hell is this exporting? I'm thinking, is this what they're doing? They try to basically dump our inflation into other countries so we don't have to struggle with it. Because there's all this talk about, printing money, inflation, hyperinflation. We're going to become like another, post World War I Germany that just has, barrels of money. But so far, we haven't really seen much of that.
It doesn't happen overnight. It's going to be a slow crawl, and we still don't know at what point this whole stimulus is going to be over. So it's not gonna happen just like that, because we can't see it. The economy is closed. You can't see it until the ripple effects of this start to hit the manufacturing, the suppliers, the transportation. You'll get a relief from the oil prices that are currently very low. But it takes a while for that to trickle through the system. And then when the wholesalers start raising, well, hopefully it's a trickle and not a fucking bomb. But yeah, it comes from the wholesale side first. And right now, y'all don't even have the wholesale side in America. It's all in China. And it's all off. So you can't really see it yet. But I hope you're right.
I was gonna say, when I was more joking when you said trickle. It's like, liberals get trickled. They get triggered by like any word with like trickle, because like, oh, trickle down. You're believing in whatever, and it's like, yeah. It's triggering
economics. Oh, God.
Yeah,
liberals are so stupid. Well, to be fair, I use the term progressive because a classical liberal is something different than what we're referring to. I call them progressives, to just make that clear, because liberal means something different in Europe than it does in America.
You want to go full Reuben, regressive.
Yeah, that's probably more accurate. Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah, but yeah, I got really confused about the whole how that works economically. Like even now it's like, okay, so everyone, like a lot of people got $1,200 in the bank, Some people blew it completely. Some people are kind of holding on to it. I'm curious what that's going to do once is the effect of that not really going to become apparent until the economy opens back up?
Yeah, of course.
Because there's also the question of, okay, people got to go back to work. All these businesses that are running that have learned to adjust with lower staff, with easier, they're trying to run more efficiently to keep their profit margins. What's going to happen once the economy is fully opened back up and people really start to go back to work? Are people going to be able to get the same types of jobs? I think I told you about there's just places that I saw that laid off hundreds of people, and it's just like, and then if they're doing so well as it is, how are they going to readjust? I mean, restaurants I can kind of see. Okay, so they hire back, whether it probably mainly like waitresses, hosts, and stuff like that. But yeah. Brian brings up a good point. Wonder how much of that money went to OnlyFans. Yeah. Yeah, I think what was it? OnlyFans reported an increase of like 3 million users. 60,000 of those were content creators.
Yeah, yes. I remember the 60,000 number for creators, which is girls taking their clothes off. 3 million. God damn. I mean, we were discussing that last week, that the cam girls can't keep up with the demand. What am I supposed to do? Sit around dildoing myself all day?
Yeah. But
it's a real issue.
I mean, yeah, there's definitely yes. What an interesting economic imagine all of the economic studies that are going to come out of this crisis in the future, like in kids' economic classes, be like, we're going to look at the different, they'll have basically like the 2020 coronavirus pandemic economic study, and then like groups of kids or students will get together and like, okay, what sector are we going to report on? Okay, we're going to report on the the cannabis sector, the restaurant sector, the porn sector.
Yeah, no, you're spot on. You're
gonna get a lot of kids to be like, we examined for our project, we did the OnlyFans system. We wanted to look at that whole thing.
It's a real thing. Like Pornhub, as has offered a free porn. I don't know what their premium thing is.
Pornhub Premium, I think, is what it's called.
Yeah, Pornhub Premium. There you go. And which is ironic because they gave you a month free when you signed up anyway, so it's the same fucking deal, right? You get it free for 30 days and then you start paying. Now they've just they've taken advantage of the pandemic and reload it. So it's brilliant. You get to enjoy all of this free porn, and then you're in a month's time they might actually charge you. So we'll see. It might actually be brilliant marketing. It might be one of the best marketing campaigns
I think
ever.
Because what was it? Someone was saying like the essentially the genius or the good play that they've made in some of these websites, and specifically Pornhub, is they get you to subscribe, and it's a fairly, I guess, compared to most subscriptions, it's fairly reasonable. And you just forget you have it.
Yeah, that's usually what happens with most porn sites.
Because like with most things, like, okay, if you got like Hulu, Netflix, Amazon Prime, it's like, oh, okay, I pay that, I know that, and if I forget that I'm paying it, that's fine because I'm still using it.
Yes,
for the most part, even with the abundance of porn on the internet, I don't really see. I mean, you don't really see this huge, let's say, use of porn on the level of like Amazon or Netflix.
No. There's too much free porn out there.
No one's jerking off past 20 minutes. Half an hour. If you're really pushing it.
Depends on your goal.
Well, god damn it. You know what I mean? Like, you can go watch Netflix for hours. You're not on Pornhub for just as long.
Sure, for most
typically. Like, I'm not talking about your crazies that are so like pent up that they're like trying to go for a world record or something.
Yeah, you got those too. I mean, it is interesting. It is interesting how this, because I actually think there is going to be an economic side effect to the OnlyFans phenomenon, which is a lot of women are not going to go back to work, right? A lot of women are going to start making more money at the OnlyFans than they did on
Well,
their job.
it would also depend upon if the men can afford it.
Right. It not obviously not every woman is going to have that experience, but I'm sure there's some pretty interesting hotties out there that
I
they
mean,
might really start making some
think of
money.
this though. Once that all that we'll just say all that pent up sexual energy is allowed to be expressed,
Yes.
you'd probably see a huge dip in the OnlyFans sort of subscriptions that women are making off it because not all of these men are just your typical like closet well just not closeted, that's the wrong word, sort of just staying at home beta types that are just all they ever get is just through the internet. They don't have any sort of physical contact. You probably have like regular old guys that at least whether maybe they have a girlfriend, maybe they're they've got something going on where as soon as they're back out there, they're back on to being with their women, that they would cut that off.
Maybe. I mean, yeah, I don't suspect the numbers are going to stay unchanged. I think a lot of people will cancel.
But that'll be almost like a correction to that market.
Yeah, it would. And I think most people understand that. The people at OnlyFans probably understand that as well. That it's just a fluke.
The people, I mean, the actual company OnlyFans probably gets it, but the women working in that those content creators are probably not going to realize that. Some of them are gonna be so reliant upon these last month and a half ish of
Yeah.
OnlyFans subscriptions. They'll be like, oh, okay. Oh crap! And then half, whether it's a quarter to a half of their subscribers disappear because they all got their girlfriends back or something, or at least they met
Exactly.
someone because everyone's so ready to
Stop.
go. Once things are back to normal.
I agree. I agree. I mean, we saw the same thing with Uber when Uber came to Trinidad. There's Trinidad is known for its carnival season, which is a very busy season. The whole capital city basically becomes a giant street party. And Uber launched a promotion, and a lot of people jumped onto Uber around the time of Carnival, and they were making some ridiculous money. Some of them like $500 to $1,000 TT a day. And everybody thought, oh, well, fuck this, man. Yeah, this is the life. We're just going to keep doing this. And they quit their jobs and whatever. And of course, once the carnival season finishes and once everything was gone and you go back to making maybe $100, $200 a day, yeah, that is the knock-on effect. And I completely agree. The OnlyFans thing, yeah, it's an interesting fluke. Women have got to make money. Sure, don't hate the hustle. But the good times are not going to keep rolling. Even
Yeah.
some of the delivery drivers, like I know the Uber Eats guy out here, he comes to deliver food for me every so often. And I talked to him like, hey, how are you keeping up? This and the other, whatever. And he's like, he's making some pretty decent, some good bank at this point. He's doing really, really well. And I kind of spoke to him, was like, save your money, don't get too crazy. This is not going to be the norm. That was my point.
Right. Yeah, it's I'm hearing about that going up. I'm hearing about what else is getting pretty. I know there's some people, so like so over at Masculine Geek, I know some of those guys are working because what is it? One of them is a writer, and the other one does a lot of what is it? Disposal. So he does like disposal of like documents and certain types of electronics that have data in them, like hard drives,
sensitive information.
Sensitive information disposal, I think would be the proper term. Still, obviously, very essential because there's businesses that are still producing paperwork or need to dispose of sensitive information and stuff. But it's interesting what society has sort of the crossover, like where does what the government considers is essential versus what the people consider essential.
Yes.
So, of course, you have your liquor stores, you have your weed shops.
Where it's legal, yes.
Well, I think yeah, in Minnesota here we have CBD, but I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
I haven't seen any of those shops. At least I haven't tried to find any. Actually, wait. Someone I just heard from told me that they were like at some sort of shop. It was either a smoke shop or a CBD shop, one of those, but it was closed down. So maybe
Okay.
Minnesota doesn't quite consider that to be too essential.
Yeah, CBD, that's that's a little more of a gray area. That's usually good for epileptics and a couple other.
They're probably considering that some sort of a because recreational is not legal in Minnesota yet. So it's probably still in that gray area where they're like, oh, we can shut it down because we're not.
Yeah, it's kind of a supplement at the end of the day. It's not
Because
really considered mainstream
right,
medicine.
because in those other states where it is fully legal, I think that's where it's like they go, okay, the state's used to it, so we're going to consider it essential.
Yeah.
Um,
I think it would be smart to, people need something to fucking do, right?
right.
We had that issue out here with the liquor shops.
Okay.
So at first when everything was shut down, essential quote unquote essential services were food and medical. So the pharmacist was open and the grocery stores were open, and basically everything else had to close. And what was not included in that in the first round was the liquor shops. And then about 2 or 3, maybe a week later, I can't remember the exact time frame, that changed, right? That suddenly became an essential service. And I mean, I have a liquor shop literally about, I don't know, 4 or 5 doors away from me. One day they were closed, and now they're open. So I see the whole town. Everybody I ever want to see just passes by my shop. They walk right past our office on the way to the liquor shop. I get to see all my friends. It's great. It's great.
Now, I saw you post some pictures on your Facebook about a local place that does takeout or something.
Oh yeah, the Welsh Harp out here in Waltham Abbey. It's my local pub, which of course is closed. So they're trying to find creative ways to make money. They do have a full kitchen, so they've been doing takeout. They did this marvelous fried chicken deal.
Yeah, I saw some of that and I was like, oh my God, that looks delicious.
Yeah, it looks good, doesn't it? I actually didn't get any this week, but my flatmates and myself will get some next week Friday. So I'll let you know how it goes. It really does look really good. And I think they do a couple other things. They do something on a Tuesday, and of course Sunday they do a full. In England, it's very common. They do something called a Sunday roast, where you could get up to like 4 meats with something called a Yorkshire pudding, side of potatoes, veg, and all that kind of stuff. So you usually get beef, turkey, maybe some like a pork or ham, as well as maybe chicken or turkey or something else. One of the 4, and some sausages. You could get sausages. So that's a custom out here. You go for a roast, you get that out here on a Sunday, and they do that. You could pick it up. You could go to the window and collect it.
Yeah, with me and the whole carnivore diet and such, I'm really starting to notice the changes in my. I mean, I've already told you about some of the things. So like, energy levels are different. I'm sleeping a lot better too, which is good. Like sleeping better, but it's like a different thing. So like I'll sleep and I wake up and I'm like awake. I can just wake up. I'm not kind of like, there's not this sort of, a lot of people you hear, oh, don't talk to me till I have my coffee or whatever. Like it takes time for people to wake up.
Sure.
For me, it's a lot. That time's been cut down quite a bit. So it's like if I wake up and I'm up, I just feel awake. Yeah. But what I'm doing, so I'm also doing this sort of one meal kind of one meal a day. I'm intermittent fasting. I'm cutting back, so I'll eat like a little snack in the beginning of the day, but then I'll eat like my actual meal when I get home after work. With all that going on, when I'm leading up to like getting hungry, and my job, it requires me to be out and about. I'm just like restaurants, places. I'm just like bread.
Exposure to some food. Yeah.
Well, no, no, not even that. It's just I see so many restaurants that are open, and I know where they all are, and I'm just like, I could just get some Wendy's. I'm like, I could get a burger, and it's like, well, bread. I could get just something with, and or fries and shit. And I'm like, nope, 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 nope.
Yeah. I mean, I think we discussed it briefly, maybe off air. I'm almost on 2 years of carnivore. Well, not 100%. I've always been like 90% carnivore. And I think this week I'm kind of deciding, look, there are a couple of things I have been craving. So my plan is I'm going to eat carnivore as strict as I can, steak and eggs, Monday to Friday. But I'm going to, where it's not going to be 90%. I might do, I like a croissant. I haven't had a croissant in a long time. I like that with my breakfast. So I'm going to do my eggs and bacon, but I'm going to have like a ham and cheese croissant.
So you're going to slowly introduce some carbs and see how your body reacts?
Not regularly, but I'm going to do that on the weekend. Because
so cheat weekend.
Yeah, like cheat weekend. And it's not going to be every meal. So like today, I had my normal carnivore breakfast. I had my eggs and some bacon. Right. And it's like, oh, well, I should cheat because, I got to go back on the diet tomorrow. So I ordered a pizza. Right. And it's like, okay, fine. And then I didn't even really want it. I didn't even finish it, actually.
How does it even feel right now when you like have that sort of spike in carbs?
I'm fine.
Because you remember when we talked about like when we first got into this diet and then like we tried to have just like a little bit of carbs like a month in, it was like, it hits your body.
No, I think the reason I'm fine is when I did go out to drink on a weekend, it's rum and Coke. And it's not Diet Coke, it's regular Coke. So I've been spiking my, carbs, quote unquote, once in a while, every time I go out to drink.
It's kind of like, because we talked about, what was it? The big thing with carnivore is that it really gives your pancreas a break.
Right, yeah, because you don't need to produce as much insulin.
But you're basically introducing these moments where it's like, it's kind of like with drinking. Alcohol definitely puts your liver to work.
Yes.
Which is where the problem comes in, is when you're constantly putting it, or at least putting into overdrive for extended periods of time.
Yes.
But a drink here and there every now and then is not going to kill you. It's kind of like, you got it, you might as well use it pretty well every now and then. It's like, it's like with a car. It's like you got a fast car. Let's say you got a fast car and you like drive it every day. Every now and then you might take it on the track to really push it, see what it can do. I think it's the same thing with your pancreas and just the insulin levels. It's like you're not just completely, coddling your body along with no carbs. Yeah. Give it a little something every now and then, which is actually probably a lot better. Like,
I'll explain what I'm doing in a minute. Go ahead, finish your point.
No, but just like instead of like with most Americans, the standard American diet being where your pancreas is just working and working, even compared to like, because your diabetics are obviously people that are like literally blowing up their pancreas with sugar.
Yeah.
But even with the standard American diet, you're still pushing your pancreas to do things. So it's in the case of like a carnivore, well, like in your case, I think you're just trying to like that high of an insulin spike is a treat.
Yes.
Like any sort of spike of insulin is a treat versus for standard American diet,
it's every day.
Yeah, and a spike for them is like drinking a whole gallon of pop.
Well, I mean, you and I have a friend that's on Facebook who obviously doesn't know much about what's going on. The issue for I guess for people like yourself and myself who are overweight, like I tried to starve myself. I did the very low calorie diet, and I actually put on weight. So it's not as simple as calories in, calories out. A lot of these guys
Yeah.
push that. They push that idea, saying, "Oh, the law of thermodynamics," and I'd be like, "You fucking idiot! You know, the law of thermodynamics says it's a closed system. The human body is not a closed system."
Yeah.
But beyond that, when it's gentlemen like you and myself, which are overweight, our issue is more hormonal. It's insulin resistance, which is the problem. It's exactly what you're saying. The pancreas is producing too much insulin, and eventually the cells don't respond. There's just so much because it's been spiking for so long. To release the fat, it doesn't respond to the
Yeah.
leptins and the stuff.
Now, here's a point to add to that, because I've actually talked with some people about this. They kind of try to claim, oh, keto and or carnivore individuals tend to be people who don't have enough discipline or self-control to go through the proper way of losing weight, so they just use diet as an excuse to like feel good. And
Right.
and then they do, well, it's funny enough, they actually do, they lose the weight anyways. I think it's like, well, people need to understand there's more than one way to lose weight. Some
Correct.
can be easier depending upon the person. So for like someone like you and me, it's like, okay, eating meat tends to be more enjoyable than, eating all your regular stuff. Maybe a
Yeah.
little healthier. Maybe, obviously, introducing more fruits and vegetables, trying to eat, less refined sugars and stuff. A lot of people agree on that, and that can have a lot of benefit.
Sure.
But I think that's still, I mean, like you talked about with the whole insulin thing, I think a lot of people don't know about that.
Yeah.
You check, and of course, you still got to preface it with this, but it's like all of the overwhelming anecdotal evidence of people who are on keto, who are on carnivore, that are seeing huge health benefits.
Correct.
More than just your like 1 month, 2 month people. Because a lot of people who are kind of against it, they don't really, excuse me, they're not really trying to kind of, yeah, brings up a good point of the fasting life. Yeah, you bring in different methods, and you can kind of keep things more in control.
Correct.
But really, I mean, if people are so, individuals like our mutual friend who are kind of against this, it's like they should understand at least there's more than one way to go about losing weight, becoming healthier.
Well, let me finish the point. A point
Yeah,
on this, right? So there does come a point I think I might be kind of entering that stage, which is why I'm kind of adding the carbs a little bit to see if it helps. Once your body has adjusted the hormones, right? You've regained insulin sensitivity. You've kind of reversed maybe the leaky gut, and your body is healed up significantly. You could probably process the carbs better, which is why I'm doing this little experiment for a little while to see if I still lose weight. And this is where our mutual friend doesn't understand. I'm not against the calories in, calories out if your hormones are balanced. But if you don't have your hormones in balance, and you've got thyroid issues, and you've got insulin resistance and these other things. So bodybuilders, for instance, that is the golden rule. If you want to like get shredded for a show, they're going to do a calorie deficit. But it works for them because they're already metabolically in tune.
Yeah, they're fucking.
Well, they're also using Tren, which is, it doesn't hurt. So Tren also helps.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about people that have to be in such tip-top health for that to work. Whereas you've got like, well, us, well, like you and me, who are maybe who used to basically live most of our life on some form of standard American diet, that are like just going along, and your body's just so out of whack. Like, people don't really consider it. It's like when you're eating all the stuff that you eat, the damage, or at least the sort of, your body is used to all of that. So trying to get that all to like balance back out in terms of carnivore, even keto is what, that's why people call it an elimination diet. You're kind of just clearing your body of all this other stuff, so it kind of balances itself back out with all the biochemical processes going on in there. Again, it's like you said with the whole closed system. Like, it's not a closed system. What is it? So I just typed in calories in, calories out on Google, and you get a ton of articles that are like, yes, but not the whole picture.
Correct.
They're like, calories in, calories out definitely is a big thing. But you also have to consider someone's age, someone's metabolic rate, someone's, history of what they've eaten. Other things like, are they diabetic, pre-diabetic? What do they have going? Like, people can sit there and harp all day about you're fat and whatever, but you're probably in a way better position if you're fat and you get pneumonia than if you're like skinny and in shape and get pneumonia. Because now I'm not saying there's that difficult, but not everything is just so cut and dry. It's just calories and fat and cholesterol, because that's the big thing is when if I post a picture about steak or eating something, people are like, oh, your arteries, what was another one is your colon is not going to like you. And I'm sitting here like, yeah, there's definitely an adjustment, but I'm not dying in the bathroom.
and even beyond that, the whole lipid hypothesis, which is the idea that saturated fat is bad for you. Breast milk is 70% saturated fat. So, and we basically raised on breast, maybe not, maybe like 60. I know it's more than half. It's definitely high percentage.
Pretty goddamn high.
Yeah, it's high cholesterol, saturated fat, and all this other stuff. So how the hell do we go from saturated fat being safe for infants and required for growth to suddenly saturated fat is bad for us? Your brain is made of fat. Every cell of your body is made from fat. And we've seen it. We've been reducing, and this is again our mutual friend. This is the point he absolutely didn't get. We've been reducing our saturated fat and animal products and red meat and all these different kinds of things since the American Guidelines on Health, which was the 1970s. Right. We've been reducing. Yeah. But heart disease hasn't decreased at all. In fact, it's gotten worse. Because once you've pulled all of the fat out of the food, the cooking, and all these other things, they replaced it with sugar. And we've seen the results of that. And I mean, it. I mean, even young teenagers are now being diagnosed with diabetes and all these other things. And again, the killer, heart disease, which is, I think, the number one killer in the US, if not most of the Western world, we see an inverse correlation, which means the diet that we're pushing, this idea of we're even eating more vegetables than ever before. All of that has not helped American health at all. So that tells us that the information is not as straightforward.
Right. Yeah. I was about to say something.
Sorry about that.
No, you're fine. No, I gotta be able to hold on to points better at times.
The lipid hypothesis. Yeah.
Well, we talked about the lipid, saturated fat, daily. Yeah. The whole thing about like your daily values and all this, and nutrient density. That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
That's a big one that I try to bring up to people when they try to go like, meat is this, like you're eating all this meat. Like, how can that be good? I'm sitting there like, do you see what I'm posting? I'm eating like a steak, a very fatty steak, and I'm having salmon. Both with a lot of fats, with a lot of good fats in it. Yes. And they're sitting, trying to say it's, bad for my arteries, or I'm going to ship bricks, which surprisingly I don't ship bricks. You eat bread, you start shitting bricks. But
I'll have a field day after the pizza I had today. It's going to be a riot tomorrow in the bathroom. Desecrate the underworld.
But that's the whole thing, is the nutrient density. You look up videos that talk about an actual nutritionists, dietitians, doctors talking about nutritional density, and it's pretty much this: organ meat, red meat, and fish.
Meat, yes.
And then like antioxidant types of like berries,
Yes.
then fruit,
Yes.
then
Yes.
vegetables, then bread.
Correct.
That's kind of your top to lowest. So and you see all these guys, these people that are on full carnivore diets, and people want to try and go and argue like, well, maybe they're sneaking in, certain supplements and stuff. Um, which then leads to the whole the problem with the whole thing. So when if you've in all of the videos you've seen of what is it, the Atom Ruins Everything. So he was the guy that we heard about
Right.
that tried to dispel the whole alpha male thing because that was
Yes. Yeah, I remember.
but
That was problematic.
right. But he did a video on the vitamin hoax, which is
Right.
actually good. Talked about how there was a time, when with very like new science when they were looking into vitamins and minerals and things the body needed. A couple of your sort of more, we'll just say Dr. Oz of the day,
Right.
uh, kind of started pushing for vitamins, believing that, if you just get all your vitamins, everything's gonna be great.
Right.
And that just how that was a hoax and how it kind of still is. You got people that are like, oh, when we're sick, we should just drown our system in vitamin C. When most of those packets are just like 80% sugar. Uh, but you get all these
Yeah.
ideas of like, oh, we just pump our body full of vitamins and we're all good.
Yeah.
And he basically goes, the whole video kind of dispels that, kind of breaks it down like, no, like obviously your body does need these things, but by just flooding your body with these vitamin supplements that basically most of your body doesn't even absorb, you just pee it out anyways, or
Yeah.
shit it out, depending upon what happens. That doesn't really work. So people are like sitting here thinking, oh, you get all the every time you see, that's why when you see like certain foods or food products that are put out there, it's like, oh, high in this supplement, high in this vitamin. It's like, yes, that's all great, but that's not supposed to really be the point. Like, why is it when someone like, these guys like Sean Baker, Michaela Peterson, granted they get a little woo woo with it, but you keep seeing them putting out test after test after test of their blood work showing somehow how they have plenty of vitamin C.
Yeah. Well, not plenty, but they have adequate. That's probably the
Adequate.
better word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have adequate vitamin C to function and they're not really getting it from any oranges or emergency packets.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I don't disagree with any of that. I don't take vitamin C regularly. From time to time, I do like berries. And I think that's a little bit of my Latin American heritage. So part of my ancestry comes from Latin America, and they did have
right.
fruits and berries. So I could probably tolerate it all right. But the body recycles vitamin C.
Yeah.
That's
Another
yeah.
one is for me that I know. I think I told you, yeah, back when I did the carnivore diet the first time for a month,
Yeah.
after a month, granted, it's a good resource. Some of these Facebook groups we're in that talk about like carnivore diet and different things to do.
Yeah.
But I talked about the month into it. I woke up one morning and I had a really bad Charlie horse,
Yes.
and I
I recommend
messaged the and
magnesium.
people are like, oh, magnesium. Well, and I'm sitting here like, okay, where can I get magnesium in meats? And it was like fucking halibut.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm not gonna get halibut. Okay,
It's
so
expensive.
yeah, and I'm like, okay, fuck this. So I'm like, what am I gonna do now? Your fucking meathead, we'll just say, of a carnivore would go at it like, oh, you just gotta let your body adapt to that. It'll figure it out. I'm like, fuck this. So I ordered on Amazon and I got,
Hurts,
yeah,
man.
I'm like, yeah. I mean, at that it was weird actually. My whole body was like sort of had this like, it was like almost on edge because I could just feel like the muscles were just weird.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh yeah, you just gotta keep eating more, keep supplementing more potassium, put more salt on your steak. And I'm like, dude, I put plenty of salt on my steak, and I was, and I, Excuse me.
Is that you, Rona?
Sneeze. So they're doing all this, and they're just, and I'm like, no. So I go on Amazon and I ordered magnesium supplements, potassium, magnesium. What is it?
It's usually zinc and magnesium or something.
No, it's potassium, magnesium.
Okay,
So I got that, and I just take a couple of those every few days. Usually, if I'm ever getting, and it's even just if I'm just getting like a cramp in general. Like even when I switched back to standard American diet, just because got lazy.
It's honest.
yeah. And then when I got back to it, and I every now and then, whether it was due to work or just due to somehow just not having, working myself pretty hard, I just took a couple of those, and it helps with recovery with soreness, because even if you're like consuming more than enough, or at least an adequate amount of potassium in your regular diet, and you just start to raise your physical activity, you're still going to get like some problems. So you really got to up your potassium and magnesium to like accommodate that. Like, for example, you remember that job that I did for like a month and a half where I was traveling?
Yep, I remember.
I had to eat like 2 bananas every morning to meet the muscle because my muscles were getting pushed so hard. Which is good, but it was like, like the guys right away, you're getting sore. Yeah, just eat plenty of bananas when we're at the hotel. I'm like, okay. And that helped.
It's a gym trick as well. I see the guys first thing in the morning when they're coming into the gym, they're eating a banana. I might actually adopt that, because I do like bananas, and they're not too bad. I think I could digest them pretty well. So yeah.
Well, and really, when I talk to people about carnivore and such, they go, that's like, you need fruits and vegetables. And I'll just kind of draw it back to, well, if you really want to because there were some other people in discussions I've had about this, and they try to go into different things, like different diets. And someone at least had a well-rounded view of like, hey, everyone has their own diet they should go with.
Yes.
And I'm not going to sit here and tell you one diet is necessarily better than the other. And then this other guy who was actually a real big keto, if you want to say, bit of an advocate of it, said, really, when you take the human body and you strip it of all the modern conveniences in terms of food, so you take away bread, you take away grains, a lot of these things that were only introduced into our bodies, a few hundred years ago. I mean, at least
1,000, but yeah.
But I mean, on the scale that we have it now, fucking your food pyramid, fucking 7 to 12 servings of bread. It's like, Jesus.
Kill you, man.
But you look at this and you kind of realize, like, yes, we can have some bread. Obviously, the human body can process it. But on the scale that we've had at that level, it's only been like a few hundred years that we've had it like mass produced on that scale. So when you take away even that, so you take the entirety of human history and look at, you go back to the beginning of the modern human, people go, obviously, we're not supposed to eat like cavemen. We're not supposed to, because obviously we're in the modern world. I'm like, well, of course we're not, I'm not telling people go out and fucking hunt your woolly mammoth. I'm telling you,
hard to do, but
people think, you just want to go by a hunter, and it's like, people kind of think the caveman diet is a sham and all this stuff, Paleolithic diet. It's like, no, I'm not saying just like grow all your own food and only eat certain things, kill your own goddamn animals. I'm saying is you can still eat what the world has to provide, but eat the things that your ancestors would have eaten. Don't start eating the things that we've only started to eat for like a little bit of in terms of history.
I agree. And I mean, if you look at the Neanderthal, which was the precursor to Homo sapiens, they were bigger, stronger, and had bigger brains than what we have currently as Homo sapiens. And what changed was the advent of agriculture. Agriculture is what made us shorter, destroyed our teeth, do all of this. So the reason I'm the height that I'm at is because of fucking agriculture, right? That is unnatural. If you say we evolved from primates, which were predominantly fruit eaters, so, some kind of great ape, what gave us the brain capacity was eating fat.
Mm-hmm.
That's what your brain is made of. It's made of fat. So we can see a very clear distinction in the fossil record, especially the ancestors. They had good teeth, you know. I mean, all of these problems that we're dealing with today, they didn't seem to have, and they're not doing all the stuff that we're trying to do. A lot of that is exactly what you say. It's a modern diet. We've created a lot of these foods. The body just doesn't know what to do with them.
It would literally, I mean, I can't put a good projection on this, but for the human body to fully adapt to bread and grains as to accommodate what we consume, not that we can't process it at all, but to at least to properly handle it on the level where like we're not getting all these health problems. We'll just say it'll have to take a while.
Yeah. In terms of evolutionary stages, it's going to take a long time.
Because there's, I hear, I'll come across someone that's like, well, I eat a pizza every goddamn day and I'm still in great shape. And I'm like, yeah, good for you. Because either you have some sort of, maybe you have a couple of genes that line up in a way where you can do that properly, or your metabolic rate is so jacked that you can just handle whatever you like. You can fucking eat a tire and you're fine. Not literally. Don't. Everyone's freaking out because Trump said, put disinfectant in your body. So if I say eat a tire, people might do that too. You never know.
we should touch on Trump and his disinfectant, by the way.
Yeah, I'm kind of divided on that. It's just because I see the two sides of like. Let's just go into that right away. Actually,
I just want to address Brian. You're quite right about it's complex because people are mixed. Which is why I discussed, look, I've got this Central American ancestry that probably was more exposed to tropical fruit and stuff like that. So yeah, that's why I say. But it's for me, it started with an elimination diet. The carnivore diet was very much an elimination diet, and I'm slowly adding other things to see if it affects my weight, if it improves things. So yeah, I completely agree that there's no one diet that fits everybody. So
right. Now, okay, so God damn it. the critically acclaimed coronavirus task force briefings.
Yes.
Trump was talking to one of his health officials that he had up there. Yes. And just live during, on camera during the whole thing, he starts talking about like, granted that the terminology was, it's Trump. He's sounding like a kid sometimes. Hey, we're just gonna do this. We're gonna put this in the body. We're gonna do that, and that's pretty cool. Like he's talking out loud. I'm not trying to excuse him because people are like, oh, you just excuse him because he says this or he says that or he does this. So anything he says, he doesn't take responsibility for. Yes, he should be responsible for what he talks about. But he basically mentioned something about like introducing light into the body. So people started talking about like UV treatments that kill viruses and bacteria. And then he talked about disinfectant, and people freaked out. Like, Lysol and Clorox started coming out with statements. Don't put the shit in your body.
Yes.
And then then you're more, I'll just say your more Trump supporting leaning groups started to go, oh, no, he was talking about, ozone treatment, which is an actual disinfecting.
Yeah. Hydrogen peroxide aerosol.
Yeah. It's an actual disinfecting process you can do involving injecting into your body.
Well, using a nebulizer to get it into the lungs. Yes.
Different things. Yeah. There's all these therapies and treatments they're talking about. So then they're like, trying to defend. They're like defending him, like, oh, anything he says, we're gonna basically find a way to accommodate what he said. Versus the other one that's just like he's a complete idiot, telling people to put Lysol in their body. And I'm kind of like taking the middle road where I'm like, yeah, the dude needs to think more and not spitball live on TV. Because I think a conversation that he had, that should have been had in private, so that his advisors that actually know a thing or two about this could be like, oh, you mean this, or that's not a real thing. Let's not talk about that.
Right. You're missing a very large part of the context of what he was asking a question.
Yeah.
He wasn't actually he was saying, I've got a question, and this might be interesting for some of you who might be into this thing. So the whole context was a question, which is the complete opposite of what the media is saying. They're saying he has said this.
Yeah, okay. Now I remember watching the video. Yeah, I think.
Yeah. It was framed in a thing of a question. And everybody is saying that he went up there to tout injecting people with disinfectant. When that wasn't the whole context of it, it was a question. It was a stupid question. I'll give you that. It's like you say, it should have been done in private.
Right. And I will stick with, I will stand at least on that to say questions and conversations like that Trump has, while it is coming from his perspective and everything, and it should be treated as such, people will take it however they want to take it.
Which is true of anything.
So, not saying Trump needs to watch every single last word he says and just be the carefulest man on the planet, but this did seem a little bit careless.
Are you calling people stupid?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's fine. Because in the context of what he said, I don't think anybody could deduce that he meant about injecting themselves with Clorox.
Oh, I get that. Stupid, I mean, I'm not going to take. I mean, I will fully acknowledge that that a good chunk, if not most of the population, does not have enough sort of we'll just call mental models, frameworks in their mind to think these things through and go, okay. Because I mean, while he is not responsible for people being stupid,
yes,
what he says can influence the stupid acting.
Right. But here's the problem with that. The people who watched the actual press conference know he did not say inject yourself with Clorox.
Oh, I get that.
Yeah, and the problem is the media is saying that he's suggested injecting yourself with Clorox. So
I get that, but there's still going to be your handful of people that probably don't quite.
Right, but
maybe did watch it and didn't actually pay attention.
Maybe. But if anybody injects themselves because of Clorox, who's responsible for that? Because he didn't say that, but the media is saying they said that.
I get that. Well, I can agree with you. The media I mean, of course I agree with you. The media definitely does its own little dumbass things.
Yes.
He should definitely work towards not giving them these kind of freebies, essentially.
I'm sure he tries not to. I thought it was a good question.
That's a good question. If a reporter asked it,
yeah,
that'd be like, oh, okay, that's an actual constructive question. But the way Trump goes about questions is he's spitballing live. It can get a little like people are like, this is not a reporter asking this. This is the president talking. So anything the president talks about, whether a question or not, is going to be regarded in some way, one way or another, to have consequences. Like, so he talked about hydrochloroquine. Like, everyone freaked out about that.
Yes,
and he never said hydrochloroquine cures this. He just said, hey, we've been hearing about hydrochloroquine. It's been having some good results. Some doctors have tried this. There's definitely not. We're looking into that.
Yes,
that's pretty much the attitude that I've heard from him.
And he did say it's pretty much a cure. Although he didn't come straight out and say it is a cure, he did kind of say
but the way, did he really do it? Was it like you're saying, we're talking about context here. It's like, okay, the disinfectant thing, that was a question. The hydrochloroquine thing, he didn't just outright say it, but he was kind of flirting with that.
Yes.
A lot of this context playing out there. And then some guy decides to drink the fishbowl cleaner equivalent of hydrochloroquine, and everyone kind of blames Trump. Now,
no. It's not as easy as that at all, because he did not drink hydroxychloroquine. He drank chloroquine. And I don't know if you followed up on it. His wife, not a big fan of Trump and not a big fan of her husband, apparently.
Right.
And there
Okay.
seems to be some allegation.
So, I mean,
she did something possibly to eradicate one of those problems.
oh, okay. So, yeah, but this is the thing. The news doesn't care about that.
No, but the news caused that. That's the difference.
Okay. Right. I mean, we can sit. You and I can sit here and go through the details.
Sure. The details matter.
Of course, they matter. But people are idiots. I'm sorry.
I completely agree.
So you and I can talk about these details, but I'm just saying from a purely, I mean, Trump really should have a guy. Mm-hmm. I mean, obviously he probably does. I mean, it's probably. I mean, it's essentially like your political analyst or your it's like it's like a publicist almost. But it's like there has to be a guy out there that's like, what will the idiots do with this? Both on the left and the right. How is the idiot news going to take this? How is the idiot people going to take this? Where is this all going to go? Let's try to minimize this where you're not making any suggestions, where you're not hinting at anything, where you're not asking a question that could be misconstrued as a statement of support, where you're not going to say this over here that's going to be misinterpreted as that. Now, I'm not saying just walk on eggshells all goddamn day and the president just reads a prepared statement all the time. But there should... Right. And there's some benefit to that. But
I have the complete opposite approach to this.
Maybe it's just me, but I look at just the fuck ups that Trump goes through with the media. I don't know if it's the media that tries to do this more, or if it's just Trump is so loose with the way he talks that they're just gonna it's easier for them to grab on things.
No, it's definitely the media, because you could just look at what you saw the video of Trump and the disinfectant. Did at any point in your mind did you think of injecting yourself with Clorox?
No.
How dumb do you have to be to hear in your brain to inject yourself with Clorox after listening to the president?
How dumb do you have to be?
And this is a lot of things. This is why I have the opposite to what you're saying. I'm kind of Darwinian at this point. If people are that dumb, just go with it. It will sort itself out.
Yeah,
probably a terrible thing to say, but
I mean, it's objective.
No, seriously. You could take the hydroxychloroquine. How you could hear the statement that Trump made about hydroxychloroquine. How dumb do you have to be to take fish cleaner that's intended, to gut the tanks and think that's medicinal when there's a warning label on it saying do not ingest orally? How dumb do you have to be to do that?
I mean, how dumb do you have to be to believe 5G is a health crisis?
I agree, but that's a harmless stupid. You can think that all you want until you start burning down 5G towers.
But, yeah, this is what I'm like, don't get, because I'll see people who are essentially on both sides of this. Like, they'll sit there and be like, we got to remove Trump because blah, 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 blah. And then they'll post a 5G conspiracy theory nonsense. And I'm like, what? What?
No, I very much a First Amendment issue. I think, look, I'm responsible for what I say. I'm not responsible for what you hear. And I think, well, it's obvious that Trump is definitely taking that train of thought. I was very disappointed when he tried to walk back the statements and say that it was a sarcastic comment. But the truth is, yeah, some people are stupid. Some people only read the newspaper and the New York Times and they believe whatever they say.
I mean, the backtrack is definitely like the the backtrack only kind of fuels the narrative more. They're like, oh, look at him. You know, he's placating to us, and then they kind of try to spin even more. In my position, if like let's say I was talking about that, I'll be like, I mean, I'm probably a little more spiteful and petty that I would actually pull the clip of that, do a briefing where I'm like, do you see what I'm saying here? I'm asking a question.
Yeah.
like just get really condescending with the news. Like, questions can be asked.
Yeah.
Now, should I ask this question on live TV? Probably not, because some of you are idiots. Like, and saying it to the news, obviously, and be like, some of you don't understand this.
And he did that. He did that when it came to criticism of the coronavirus.
And then get a bottle, like obviously a cleaned out bottle of Lysol with just like water in it or something, and just drink it in front of them. Did you really think I meant this?
No, that's if I were him, I would be just as arrogant. And it's like, obviously the media doesn't understand questions and they don't understand context. And if anybody does anything stupid now, it falls squarely on the media. If anybody goes and injects themselves or drinks Clorox or whatever, none of which he said, that is completely at the feet of the media for saying something he did not say.
For doing this, you know, someone like me probably wouldn't become president, but like anytime there'd be a scandal, I would make it a joke. I would spitefully throw it back, like, you know, I'll eat my well done steak with my 2 scoops. You remember the 2 scoops of ice cream?
Yes.
I'll eat my 2. Everyone, I'll be like, baby, you know, fucking grab her by the pussy, and then I'll bring a cat on TV and be like, yeah, grabbing this one. Like,
it's absurdity. That's master trolling.
But you wouldn't become president if you're.
What are you talking about? You have a president that's done all of that.
He doesn't do it to that degree, though.
Granted, he doesn't.
He doesn't do more subtle.
Yeah, he's got to do a Dr. No with the pussycat. That's from James Bond. He had the cat and stuff. Well, he is lashing back, which I appreciate, because he did that with the coronavirus, and everybody's criticizing him for what he did, what he didn't do. Everybody, you know, hindsight is 2020. Everybody's thinks they're a fucking expert on a pandemic now. And he literally came out with a video showing that while he was putting out the China ban, the media was against him, calling him xenophobic, and Nancy Pelosi was trying to impeach him with the big nothing. And if you want to call Trump incompetent, you have to point to everybody else in leadership, which includes all of Congress, and point to them and say, well, they must have been incompetent too. And the media, because none of them supported him. So he came out with his video clips with the timeline, and he showed clips of the media saying this about him and that about him while he was doing all of his stuff, which is, again, why the Senate, I think it's the senator or the congressman from Texas, blew the shit out of Bill Maher in his interview, where Bill Maher was trying to corner him.
Dan Crenshaw has been pretty good for the right. He got a little bit. I mean, I've been watching a lot of the stuff he does because he's been coming on to. He went on to Joe Rogan, which sucked because he doesn't know how to properly argue against universal healthcare with Joe Rogan.
Okay, I didn't see the interview, so I don't know. Yeah,
it was one of those basically Skype calls that he did for a show, and Dan Crenshaw was on there, and he really got Crenshaw in a bad position when it came to universal healthcare. Like, what sucks is, obviously you and I are not like some, high level intellectuals, but it's like when I see some of these topics and I see like people in authority, people who are seen as policymakers that are talking about this, I'm kind of like, no, there's a better way you can argue that still lines up. They're just kind of like, they don't know how to properly explain things. I don't know if it's because of lack of knowledge or lack of the ability to fully kind of point out like reality. Like, they can't get too objective because people will get either turned off or start thinking this person is some sort of immoral, apathetic individual.
Sure. Because they are politicians at the end of the day, so they have to pander somewhat to the public.
Like, you can't sit there and say, well, universal healthcare wouldn't work because incentives need to be there for people to operate properly.
Right.
You need incentives. You need to incentivize people that become doctors to then want to compete for better prices, to provide better treatments, to make, a lot of things that you can argue where instead of if you just throw in universal healthcare, there's no incentive to be a doctor because it's going to be the shit job full of rationing.
Different thing. You're discussing two different things. You can have universal healthcare that will promote competition and efficiency by doing what they tried to do in America, which was everybody has to buy insurance. So a social insurance program. The reason it fucked up is because the government basically put a whole bunch of demands on it, and you have like 70-year-old grandmas paying for birth control in their fucking insurance. One set of shit. That's universal coverage. Everybody is forced to buy private insurance. That maintains competition. Like, that's the system Germany has, for instance, and they're doing really well. What you're arguing against is what I would argue against: single payer system, which is the government takeover of healthcare. And so you can maintain some of those free market principles if you encourage the insurance market. So you can cover everyone.
Yeah.
Which is what you do. Ironically, what you do.
The big problems of the U.S. healthcare system is just a lack of competition in a lot of ways. A lot of regulations, a lot of problems that basically, the whole crossing state lines thing.
Correct.
People sit there and kind of go, oh, what's this Republican thing about crossing state lines? It's like, because when companies can cross state lines and compete with each other, they're more willing to lower their prices.
Correct.
Because they're like, oh, because it's all about if the product of like what insurance companies, if what they're trying to buy essentially is the customer,
yes,
how are they going to do it? They're going to try to offer the best product.
Correct. At the lowest price.
Yeah. And they're going to try to throw in little things to make it more appealing. Like, oh, here I've got a $10 a month plan that only covers this stuff and you'd be perfect for it. And then another guy comes along. Yeah, but I've got a $15 a month, but I've got double the benefits.
Yeah.
Oh, and people will, and then they compete in that way, but no one really thinks about that. People just kind of think, oh, what was it? I've seen plenty of videos just kind of pointing out the huge flaw. Well, I should just get healthcare. Just cause. Like, I should just, why do I get, and it's like, yeah, you definitely, should, and and like what is and what should be are very different things. It's like, I saw in this article someone wrote, basically touched on universal healthcare doesn't exist.
Okay.
Because the definition of, what was it, the WHO? Like, the WHO defines universal healthcare as having medical coverage, like basically for everyone within a country.
Yeah, that'd be right. It doesn't exist for everyone.
No country has ever been able to pull that off.
It's impossible.
Because even with the most ridiculous measures in place, you still get a percentage of people that somehow don't get covered.
Correct. Or are denied care, as we are seeing out here in the NHS.
Yeah.
So with the influx of the CCP virus, all other surgeries, including all the cancer patients and all this other kind of stuff, back of the line, they're being denied care. And I think last year, 9,000 people died from preventable deaths. It wasn't that there wasn't a treatment. It wasn't that they couldn't be helped. It was the system itself killed them. In the way.
Yeah, I've encountered some individuals that it's kind of interesting. Your guys' NHS is so revered as infallible.
In the UK, it is. Everywhere else in the world, it's not.
Yeah. Crap, we're getting on our time here a bit.
Did you want to get into healthcare? We got like 5 minutes.
One specific issue that was brought up in a conversation once. So I don't know if was it you telling me about nurses and doctors being shut up from discussing PPE shortages during the
Yes,
coronavirus thing.
that's happening here.
I heard someone argue like, okay, nurses and doctors who are not part of the who are basically not representatives of the NHS shouldn't be commenting on this.
Why? What was their reasoning? Did they say?
They basically were saying, the whole idea of like this they believed it to be a very American idea, kind of like, if I know something, I should say something about it.
Right.
Whatever it is.
Yes.
Whether that can cause consequences, cause panic, cause distrust in certain institutions that are doing their absolute best to contain a situation.
Yes. What's the issue?
Sorry, I froze for a second there. I don't know if it's just this damn it. What did you hear last?
Yeah, about how if they want to say something, they should speak out about it, and it's, on whatever issue it is. So I agree with all that.
So they were basically arguing against that and saying, people shouldn't be, not necessarily. I mean, granted, the policy is not allowed to say anything, but they're saying people should be considerate to understand, like, if you're not a representative that knows everything that's going on, and all you're reporting and talking about is what you're seeing, that's just irresponsible. Like, people shouldn't be just freely throwing around information without seeing the whole picture, which the media could take and twist and do whatever with. It should be kept to. It's like, if there's a crisis going on, people shouldn't be loosely just going about with everything they see.
Okay.
There's individuals. This is some British people I talked to.
Okay. I disagree.
And I was like, pointing out, like, well, if they're seeing like genuine shortages, like, what is this whole thing about how the NHS is so goddamn great? Like people should point out, hey, the NHS is having a real problem with shortages. Like, this should be understood. And you go, well, people do know that. People are not stupid. They get that. I'm like, so why can't people be allowed to talk about that? I'm like, because if they talk about it, they're going to go into a bunch of other things that might not be relevant, or it could be like something that's not entirely true, that could just cause a mass sort of problem of people believing in things that maybe aren't entirely true.
Okay. How is that different from any other day? That's the news in general out here.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the BBC.
Yeah, and so it's tricky to kind of like argue all this, because
it's arguing religion. If you're talking to British people about the NHS, you're talking about the Eucharist. That's basically what it comes down to.
Right.
And saying the obvious, any kind of disparaging something about the NHS, it's so bad out here, Amos. Every Thursday, I think it's Thursday, we stand outside our house and we clap, the whole country, for the NHS.
Do you?
No, I do not do that, because it's a futile endeavor. And at the end of the day, I would rather give money to help them get PPE than to stand up and virtue signal to a whole bunch of people about their God. So I wouldn't do that. And this was the point I was going to make. People are actually doxing and openly shaming people who do not clap for the NHS. They're actually pointing out on social media, well, my neighbor so-and-so was not outside at 8 p.m. clapping for the NHS. That's Gestapo level shit.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So that is, you are dealing with the Eucharist of the British country. No matter how many people it kills, no matter how many people die, you are not going to beat the love of the NHS out of anybody until they're dead.
Yeah.
And you should see the comments that I have on my criticisms of anybody who's been exposed to any other health system in the world knows there is a reason that no other country has adopted the NHS system. In fact, even the countries that had it, like Singapore, got rid of it because it's killing people. It is a disaster. But you can't say that in the UK. I might get away with it because I'm not English. I wasn't raised in the propaganda. But if you say that out here, yeah, they'll crucify your ass.
Right. Clap for me now. Applause for the gulag. Yeah. All right. We're coming up to the end here. We're gonna wrap it up here.
We didn't even talk about Kim Jong-un and his dictator system.
I know we just went way off with a bunch of stuff, but we gotta.
I
wrap it up here.
But I mean, it's so cool. Now we got a female dictator. Look how great that is. That's like progress for women.
Dude, the media is already being caught with that bullshit, like trying to promote, like, oh, fierce, some shit like that.
Yeah. Gulag for everybody else.
Yeah. Anyways, thank you for joining us. Of course, now if you guys do enjoy the show, of course, like the video, comment below, and of course, subscribe to the channel, and of course, too, on top of all that, check us out on podcasts. We are on 10K Run Podcast. It shows up on all the major podcasting platforms. And then of course, if you see below, we got a little crawler here. You can support the show if you'd like through two different ways. You can do both, or just one of them, or none of them. Just subscribe to the channel. I think that's the big one we want to get people to do. Subscribestar.com/shitlord-preachers. Now it uses the old name, but it says 10K Run when you're actually on the site. That's where you can support us monthly. We actually had someone recently purchase the highest tier, the $25 a month, which gives them a shout out. Should have done it at the beginning. Edmundo subscribed to our $25 a month thing. Thank you, Edmundo. We're going to mention you, of course, every episode. Well, I'll also have to talk to you, Brooke, about that later on, because there's something going on with that. Not a bad thing. He's supporting us with that. Now, if you don't want to do that, but you want to get something more substantial, more like a tangible thing beyond just the content that we provide that's extra for our subscribers, is Tactical Soap. If you go to tacticalsoap.com and you purchase any of them and you use the coupon code 10KRUM, that's 10, the letter K, and then RUM, all one word, you get 10% off. And then, of course, a little bit of that goes to us to help us out with the show. If you guys want to do that, that is another way too. So either on Subscribestar or on Tactical Soap, or subscribe to the channel and like the video. Now, if you guys enjoy the content, of course, share our videos with a friend, some of your family. I know a lot of podcasts are going on out there. We've actually been going on for almost 3 years. So pick us over your friend's podcast that just started last week. I love people who podcast, but don't get
deserve it.
We actually deserve it. No, I'm not. I'm kind of half tongue in cheek with that, guys. I know just people are coming up to me and probably coming up to Brooke too, that are like, "Hey, I know you guys do a podcast," and this is really what they're really saying is, "Hey, man, I see you do a podcast. I'm just really bored with this quarantine. I'm thinking about spending $200 on podcasting equipment to do this," and I'm like, "No, no." Because it's like you're gonna do like maybe a handful of episodes. You're maybe gonna your guest is gonna be your mom, your uncle, and your friend
in the quarantine area.
And then you're gonna be done. Like you're gonna blow all this money and not use anything. At best, you maybe get some like better equipment for like audio equipment and stuff. But anyways, do check out our previous episodes. Subscribe to everything we're on. Of course, follow us on. Yes. Wait. Nope. In there. Yes. Follow us on Twitter at Amos Joe for me, and then at Brook_Potter for Brooke. Anyways, go
all the
over
links
time.
below.
All the links will be below, of course, and of course all the stuff I described. But yeah. Anyways, we are going to be on Religion Zero in 20 minutes almost.
About 25 minutes.
So do check us out over there. The link for that, you just go to Brooke's channel, which his link is below in the description. go over there, check us out over there. We're going to be talking with our friend Conk, Bobby, and then, of course, Brooke and myself will be there. So thank everyone for joining us, of course. We will see you guys next week.
Thanks for watching, everyone.